because that structure of 2 whole steps and a half step, 3 whole steps, half step, 2 whole steps, half, 3, half, 2, 3, 2, 3, is the architecture of every key.
Let's look at 3 basic ways to play the C major scale: single string scales, 2 string scales, and 3 string scales. But first, it's a good idea to have an understanding of scale structure, starting with intervals, the distances between the notes. Here are the notes of the C major scale. And here are the intervals of the C major scale, the distances between the notes. W for whole step, H for half step. We can break it up into 2 groups of 4, which we call tetrachords, each with the same interval structure, 2 whole steps and a half step, with a whole step in between the 2 tetrachords. Next, we'll look at scale degrees. Roman numerals are used to indicate scale degrees, and they correspond with the alphabetical note names. When you play a major scale in another key, the alphabet letters will change, but the interval sequence and the Roman numeral scale degrees will stay the same. Now that we've looked at the basic structure of the major scale, let's apply that knowledge on the guitar fretboard. We'll start with single string scales. On the first fret of the B string, the first finger plays C, the second finger plays D, the third finger plays E, the fourth finger plays F. Return to the first finger for G, second finger A, third finger B, and fourth finger for C at the end. The intervals are between your fingers. Play this scale slowly and carefully. Let each note sustain a bit. Become aware that the notes and the intervals between the notes are not just on the fretboard, but in your hand.
That's lesson number 1, C major scale on the second string, on the B string, starting from the first fret. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C. With these 4 fingers, 1 note per finger, 1 finger per note. Now, why do I start there? If you're playing music based on the diatonic system, the system that has the 12 keys and the major scales and the minor scales and the A minor chords and the C major chords, if you're playing music based on that system, even a little bit, if you're playing music based on that system, the C major scale is the starting point. By default, the 7-letter alphabet with no sharps or flats, the simplest expression of this idea, happens in the key of C major, with the notes C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Now, there are many ways to play those 7 notes, that scale, that key structure on the fretboard. So the simplest, really, 1 string, 4 notes at a time, or 4-note groupings, 2 of them, the same as each other. And then we can take that from 1 string and connect it to 2 strings. So now we have the second string C, D, E, F, the first 4-note sequence, the first tetrachord, and then G, A, B, C now on the first string, starting at the 3rd fret. And the way we find that note as we go through the scale, we'll have C, D, E, F. When you get to F, if your hand is aligned with the fret spaces now, so that your fourth finger is on the sixth fret, your third finger is on the fifth, your second finger is on the fourth, and your first finger is on the third fret, one finger per fret now, that gives us a whole step between these two strings. So we have F on the second string on the sixth fret, and we have G on the first string on the third fret. 6, 5, 4, 3, 4 spaces, a proper whole step. And then we have the next four notes just as we did initially. So the first four notes, now we switch strings, the next four notes.
We'll play our first two-string scale, starting in the same place as before. The first fret on the B string for the first tetrachord. Now we'll shift to the third fret on the high E string for the next four notes. This is a two-string C major scale with the second string, first fret, tonic. If we place the tonic on the fifth string at the third fret, the scale will be an octave lower. Shifting the tonic to the fifth fret of the fifth string gives us a D major scale. Let's shift the pattern to the next string. The same fingering pattern on the fourth string at the fifth fret gives us a G major scale. But when we place the pattern on the third string, it changes its shape due to the unique interval relationship between the G and the B string. Compare the positions of the notes on these two strings with those of the same pitch on the B and the high E string. Now let's check out some three-string scales, briefly returning to this two-string scale for comparison. When we distribute the notes of the scale across three strings, we lose the simplicity and symmetry of the tetrachord forms, but the notes get closer together, making them easier to play more rapidly. There are three different shapes for these three-string scales. This fifth-string version of the scale has the notes positioned a little bit differently than the previous example, which had its tonic on the third string, but the shape remains the same when it goes from the fifth string to the sixth. And it acquires a unique form when the tonic is placed on the fourth string. The major third interval between the G and the B strings causes the changes in the shapes of these patterns, as opposed to the perfect fourth intervals between any other pair of adjacent strings.
We got this one. We got this one. We got that one. And we've got that one. Four different ways. Well, really three. It depends on how you look at it. These two are the same based on the fingering structure, based on the shape. This one, different from those others. And this one, also different. Within the structure of the diatonic system, the C major scale is simply the simplest expression of the way a musical key works. The interval structure of the scale is the interval structure of the key itself. The distances between the notes in a relative sense, from one to the next, but also in an absolute sense, because that structure of two whole steps and a half step, three whole steps, half step, two whole steps, half, three, half, 2, 3, 2, 3, is the architecture of every key.